Over the last number of lessons, we provided a great deal of information relating to the French Revolution. Now, we did so as a basis of understanding how important the French Revolution is and was in the development of French nationalism. It was a pivotal event, and it was a massive event, a critically important event in Western history. But for our purposes, we've been looking at the French Revolution from the standpoint of nationalism and from the standpoint of our important related issue, which is to what extent should nation be the foundation of identity. Now, we did review the phases of the revolution, but again, given the amount of information presented, let's review the factors that actually shaped the French Revolution, and let's take some time to do so right now. If you recall, France, due to a number of reasons, ongoing foreign wars and involvements, lavish spending of the crown, of the nobility, was facing a financial crisis, and from 1787 was on the brink of bankruptcy. They attempted various means, all were thwarted by the nobility, to find new ways to raise revenue, but to no avail. Also, France at the time was divided into a strict order. There were basically three social classes, three distinct and divided social classes. The first estate, the higher clergy; the second estate, the nobility of the aristocrats; and the third estate, everyone else. And if you recall, the first two estates had all the privileges and none of the responsibilities. All the burden of taxation was placed on the third estate, and so the ability of the crown and of the government to raise revenue to thwart the crisis and challenge of bankruptcy was not able to take place. Because of the dire situation, the dire financial situation, Louis XVI was finally forced to call the Estates General. And if you recall, the Estates General was an ancient feudal legislative body that represented the three estates in France. It hadn't met for some 150 years. And so in June of 1789, Louis XVI calls the Estates General together. At the same time, over the last year and year and a half, there were food shortages, and these were created by severe winters, which blocked transportation, and long summer droughts, and this led to wide-scale famine and to a period known in French history as the Great Fear, where the common people, the peasants, were afraid that greater burdens, financial burdens through taxation, would be placed on them by the nobility. And so during this time, there was great upheaval and great tension. When the Estates General is called to meet, the third estate demands that votes be based on population. And the first and second estate, if you recall, of course, would not go with this because the third estate, given the fact that it represented 25 million people, would have most of the votes. As a result, Louis XVI forced the third estate out and did not let them meet with the other two estates. They then met in a nearby tennis court and took an oath to remain together and to refuse to disband until their third estate was recognized as a national assembly. Finally, Louis XVI gives in and has the first and second estates joined with the third estate, and the National Assembly is formed. Also, there are influences from other elements, outside elements. The American Revolution had initial French support. The Marquis de Lafayette, who plays a major role early on in the French Revolution, actually led a number of rebels. And of course, the part of the financial crisis that the French government was facing was due to the amount of money that they had spent in their involvement in the American Revolution. But all of these factors influenced the French Revolution, and all of the various factors that we see here played a huge role in the outbreak of revolt. Let's look at this in a bit of a different way, and you can use your text and your outline notes to assist you, but maybe following this would be a good idea. Let's break these factors down in another way. We're going to look at them in relation to historical, social, economic, political, and other factors, and let's consider these factors in this way. Let's look at their causes, and let's see if we can come up with a rationale or an explanation for them. Well, Louis XVI calls the Estates General to meet for the first time in June of 1789. We just spoke of this. Well, when we break that down, if we analyze that, that's a historical factor, because it's the first time the Estates General is called together in 170 years. The fact that France was divided into a strict order that was defined basically by birth, where the first two estates had all the privileges and advantages and the third estates had none, is basically another cause or factor of the French Revolution, and it's certainly a social factor given that these are social classes. Remember, the first estates is a higher clergy, the second estates the nobility or the aristocrats, and the third estate is everyone else. When we look at two economic causes, we see that France, based on the ongoing wars, its lavish spending, and the fact that it wasn't able to raise revenue, led to a financial crisis and put the government on the brink of bankruptcy. This obviously is an economic factor, and it certainly was an important cause of the French Revolution, and it was obviously economic because the financial crisis was economic in nature. Well, let's look at three others: political, geographic or environmental, and other. So let's see if we can come up with some other causes and break them down accordingly. Well, the fact that the third estate takes a tennis court oath and refuses to disband and eventually forms a National Assembly is a cause of the French Revolution, and it's a political cause. And certainly because they are recognized as a National Assembly and because they become a legislative body of the revolutionary government, this is obviously a reason why it would be seen as a political factor. What about geographic and environmental? How about factors or causes? Well, the food shortage of 1788, 1789 that was in part brought on by severe winter is certainly an environmental geographic factor. And the fact that this winter blocked transport is geographic in nature. And the fact that there was a summer drought was also geographic or environmental. And the fact that these factors led to a wide-scale famine that helped spark the revolution is certainly a major cause for the outbreak of revolt. How about other? Well, the fact that France supported the American Revolution financially and militarily was certainly a cause because it helped bankrupt the government, and this may certainly be seen as an other or a different factor. And the fact that the American Revolution and its success influenced French political action may also be seen as a cause that's other than geographic, political, economic, or social. And we must understand that at the time of the American Revolution, there was a number of French who actually volunteered to fight. We mentioned the Marquis de Lafayette, who actually plays an important role in the French Revolution as well. So now we see the various factors through our review of those that help bring about the French Revolution, and we see that we can break them down along different lines.